Hi friends, my name is Bhavya Mangla. I'm IATF qualified auditor doing audit for the automotive sector for the last 20 years. I'm again back with a very interesting topic, and today I'm going to talk about ISO TS 9002 2016 version and how it is important and relevant with ISO 9001 2015 version. And by the time this video will end, you will understand what exactly is ISO TS 9002, why it is important, what is its relation with ISO 9001, and how we can effectively understand it. In general, when we talk about family, generally we give a lot of importance to some people in the family, and some people are not given much importance because we think that the people who is earning, they are more important, and some people who are not earning, they are not that much important. But actually we know that they are the real backbone of the company. Especially it happens with the female members who are generally considered to be little less as compared to the male members who are earning. But we all know that if the female member is not there, the whole house crashes down. Something similar is with this ISO TS 9002 2016 version. It's a very silent standard. Hardly anyone knew about this particular standard, that there is something called ISO TS 9002. Maybe many of you must be hearing for the first time. But without ISO TS 9002 2016 understanding, it's very difficult to understand ISO 9001 2015. Because 9001 is talking only about the requirements, very straightforward requirements. It does not talk anything about its understanding, its interpretation, and what are the different examples through which we can understand that. That's all the work that is being done by ISO TS 9002 2016 version. So in case so far you have not yet gone through this particular standard, you have not known about it, or even if you are knowing about it but still you have not gone through it, do go through that, and then you will understand ISO 9001 2015 more effectively. And it's more relevant from this perspective also, that ISO 9001 is hardly 29 pages, which includes a lot of annexures and all that. But when we talk about ISO TS, it's almost 59 pages. So you can understand how much elaboration and detail which is being specified in ISO TS 9002. One thing which is very important to understand is that when we are going through ISO TS 9002, that does not mean that we need to implement all those things which are specified. That these are just for reference and for understanding. And also, it also does not mean that whatever is the requirement which is given in 9001, we can dilute it or we can make it more stringent. Still the basis remains 9001, but to understand that, the guidance document is 9002 version. So I'll give you few examples to tell you that how much important ISO TS 9002 is then, and by understanding that, some of the key clauses, how we can understand it more effectively. Otherwise when we go through the standard, sometimes we feel that what to do and how to find what is the meaning of that. All those things are there in ISO TS 9002. So let me start first with clause number 4.1. So when we talk about clause number 4.1, it's talking about understanding the organization context. If you go through the standard, you will find that there are a couple of lines which are written there, but there is a lot more there which is inside that. And unless and until we understand that meaning, it's very difficult to actually find some thing that needs to be done with respect to that. But if you go through ISO TS 9002, you will find out they are talking about that when we talk about the organization context, it can be positive or it can be negative. Then they're also talking about the internal and external issues which can keep on changing. Then it is also talking about the different sources of issues which can come, and there they have given different examples about national, international press, website, government department. Then they also talk about external issues which can be economic, social, political, technology, market, legal. Then internal issues can also be with respect to the organization, human aspect, governance, and there could be many more things. When we talk about clause number 4.2, which is equally important, which is talking about the interested parties. So again, there are so many things which are there in ISO TS, but if you go through ISO 9000, hardly any information is there. But once we go through ISO TS 9002, we come to know that when we are talking about needs and expectations of interested parties, so first of all, it goes beyond the direct customers. Then it is primarily we are talking about internal and external issues before, not after. And then there are different examples which are being given that who can be an interested party. It can be a customer, end user, banker, trade union, supplier, legal bodies, competitor, local communities, and there can be much more. And then how to know the needs and expectation. So again, there are different examples which are given. It can be from the legal requirements, from benchmarking data, from the customer orders that we are getting, maybe regularly market surveillance we are doing with respect to the supply chain relationship, customer satisfaction data, and there can be many more ways in which we can understand the needs and expectation of the interested party. And then who can be the really interested parties requirements. So it can be specified in customer requirements, pricing, delivery, protocols, MOU. There can be many more things through which we can find out that. Then third very interesting clause is 6.1, which is talking about risk analysis. Yes, certainly in ISO 9001, there is some information which is given with respect to that, but actually there is a complete standard, ISO 31000. But here the intent is not to implement 31000, but to understand with respect to the boundaries of 9001, what is important. And when you go through ISO TS 9002, you will find a lot more information with respect to risk analysis. So if you go through that, you will find the information about what is the purpose, how we can prevent the non-conformities with respect to the output, how we can identify the opportunities which can enhance the customer satisfaction. Then there are different examples which are given with respect to risk. Maybe the QMS is not achieving its objective, maybe there is some failure in the process, product or services, maybe the customer satisfaction is not being achieved. Then there are also examples that what exactly is the meaning of opportunity, maybe some new customers that we can identify. Then it's talking about some new development, some new technology, how we can make it more efficient. Then there are also different ways how we can do the risk analysis, because there can be n number of ways in which you can do the risk analysis, which ISO 9001 is not talking about. So they are talking about the SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity and threat. Then they're also talking about PESTEL, then FMEA, HACCP, which is with respect to the food, and there can be some simpler technique with respect to the brainstorming and finding out what if technique that we can use to do that. And then last and the very important thing is what are the actions we can do to address it. So we can either avoid it, we can eliminate it, we can take the risk, we can share the risk, or finally there can be no action which can be there with respect to that. Then if you go about clause number 7.4, which is talking about communication, there are certain things which are specified in the ISO standard that how to do the communication. But if you go through ISO TS 9002, you will find there are many more things which are being specified. So for example, it is talking about, so we can determine who are the relevant internal and external parties with whom we need to communicate. There can be different communication methods which can be there, and this communication can be formal communication, maybe with respect to some reports, some legal documents, agreements, or there can be some internal communication, and what can be the mode of that. And it's also talking about how we can make this communication more effective by transmitting and receiving the information more quickly. Then we're building trust among each other, what we can do by transmitting the importance of customer satisfaction, and how we can identify the areas of for improvement. So there are so many things which are being specified in detail in communication. Then when we talk about clause number 8.5.3, which is talking about customer property. Now, if you go to ISO 9001, you will find very less information with respect to that, and in general, it is being considered as an exclusion. But if you go through ISO TS 9002, you'll find there are so many examples which are given, and then we realize that yes, actually, it is applicable in majority of the organizations. So when we talk about customer property, primarily it is talking about maybe the equipments that we are using for packaging. It can be the personal data, and this property can be tangible or intangible. When we talk about that, it can be about the material, tools, customer premises, intellectual property, personal data, So for example, we are talking about the different instruments that we are using for measurement, maybe some vehicles which are coming for service and repair. Then it can be the packaging material, it can be some financial or personal data. And then another important aspect which is specified in detail is how to protect the customer property. So it can be through password protection, maybe some specific location to store the intellectual property like drawing, software. There can be some limited access, and all those things are possible there. Then very interesting clause is clause number 8.7.1, which is talking about control of non-conforming product. Even though there is some information which is given in ISO 9001, but if you go through ISO TS 9002, you will find much more information with respect to that what exactly is the meaning of that, and there can be some finer thing which you can find there, maybe certain thing how to deal with the non-conforming product, how to inform the customer, what to do when we detect the non-conformance after the delivery, what actions we can take with respect to that. Then going to clause number 9.1.2, which is talking about customer satisfaction. There are certain things which is given in 9001, but if you go to ISO TS 9002, you'll find some more examples and relevance with respect to that. There's a lot of information which is there with respect to how to determine the method with respect to that, how to determine the degree of customer satisfaction, and why it is important to have the input to the management review. And then finally, when we talk about internal audit, which is clause number 9.2, some information is there and decent amount of information is there in 9001, but there are a lot of complexity in real life. So there are many new examples, the different examples are given in ISO TS 9002. So for example, it is talking about that we have to see an impartial view. Then it's talking about how the observations can be there and what are the different ways in which we can consider all those information. And it's also talking about multiple sites, how to make an organization audit program for each specific location. Then it's also talking about how we can decide about the frequency of conducting the internal audits. It's also talking about some smaller organizations where it is very difficult to have different people who can audit different people. So what to do, how to deal with that, and what needs to be done with respect to the audit results, and what kind of different documents we can make with respect to that. So if I do a summary with respect to what all I have shared, first of all, ISO TS 9002 2016 is a very important standard. It's a guidance standard to understand 9001 2015. It does not replace the requirements of 9001, but helps the user to understand all those requirements. And once we go through the different clauses, we can understand, we can interpret, and it is very easy to implement 9001 once we go through ISO TS 9002 2016 version. My next video will again be in the same series of ISO 9000, wherein I'm going to talk about ISO 9004 and how it is important for the organization to understand and implement its intent effectively. Regularly, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your side, and they're helping me to understand your expectations. So please do continue that. In case you are liking these kind of videos and blogs, you can always share with your friends and colleagues, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website bhavyamangla.com. And in case you want to understand a little bit more about this particular video, you'll find a link below. If you click that, you'll find a blog there, and there you find this information in much more detail. Thank you.